Hello and welcome to Painting with Coach Ellie. Today we're going to be using brushes while last week we did finger paints. And today I have a very specific project in mind. I'm going to be putting my paints on the cardboard piece to my left. Since I'm using acrylic paper and we will be having acrylic all over it, I went ahead and taped my page down. You don't have to do that. My tape is a special kind of tape that won't harm my picture and won't harm my table. I also have a cup of water to wash my paintbrushes in, and a dirty old rag that I usually use when I paint to wipe my brushes off on. Before we get started, I also want you to make sure that, painting can get messy, so you should be wearing clothes that you don't mind accidentally getting dirty. Also make sure that you don't touch any furniture or other things that you don't already have permission to paint on. Ask a parent for help if you need it. Now to get started, what we're going to do first is I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to make a bunch of lines. You can make your lines going straight standing up, or you can do them at an angle like I did. Whatever you do, don't let the lines touch. That is the most important thing. From here, you're going to make a bunch of different sized shapes on your paper. I'm going to do different sized circles, but you can do whatever you want to do. You can do squares, you can do hearts, you can do triangles. It's really up to you. Just again, make sure that nothing goes over each other. See how all of my circles are separate? I don't want anything to touch, and you don't want anything to go, over each other. So once you're finished drawing your shapes, you're going to have to pick colors. So for me, what I ended up picking was yellow, blue, pink, purple, and white. But you don't have to pick that many colors. If you want to pick, just 2 or 3, that's perfectly okay. What you're going to do is you don't want your colors to touch. So I would plan ahead. See how I'm writing down the different colors that I'm going to be using where they go. So in my first column, I'm going to be doing blue and yellow. So all of my circles are going to be blue and all of the area around it will be yellow. But then on my next one, all of my circles will be yellow and the space will be filled in with a different color. So you don't want your colors to touch. That's the whole goal. Even if you're doing black and white, then you'll do, for example, in one column, your circles will be black and your background will be white, but then in the next column, your circles will be black and your background will be white, and so forth. So go ahead and take the time now to pick your colors and fill in on your paper where they're going to go so that you don't lose track whenever you're going painting. Now that I'm finished with that, I'm going to go ahead and start painting. So how I chose to do this is, once I got into my groove, I decided ultimately that I would just do it one color at a time, but you don't have to do this, especially if it's really difficult for you to paint without putting your hand down on your paper or your canvas or whatever it is you're painting on. So I chose to do all of my yellow at once, so I'm going to go all the way down my page and fill in any space that's yellow exactly how I want it. You don't have to do that. You can go, column by column and just keep going. That way you don't accidentally drag your hand across the page and mess up your paints or whatever you might be worried about. But if you feel like that's a good option for you, go ahead and do it. There's leeway. All right, so now it's just about filling in those spaces. Take your time. It doesn't have to go quickly. Fill them in however you want. I definitely recommend, if you want a more full color, to do multiple layers once it's dried a little bit and just really keep it going. So good luck! Now that I've finished with my yellow, I'm going to move on to my blues. I want a really nice light blue, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try mixing my paints, mixing up my white and my blue, and I'm going to keep adding to it until I get that color that I really, really want. And the way I'm doing it, I'm doing a specific technique of painting where I'm filling in the space first and then I put a lot of paint there and I kind of swirl it around a little bit with some extra white flecks in there. You don't need to do that, but if you want to do it, you're welcome to try it out and let me know how it goes. Now that I'm finished with my blues, I'm going to start with my pinks. The pink I'm going for is a really, really light pink, so I'm only going to put a little bit of red and mostly white. And then as I kind of tested out a little bit more, I decided to put some little bits of yellow into my pink to make it warmer instead of just that, bubble gum pink color. But that was just a preference. So, same technique here. Once I've mixed my paint, I'm going to put a base layer and then thickly coat it on. Alright, now that I've finished with my pink, I'm going to move on to my white. It might seem a little bit silly to put white down on white paper, but it's about the texture and also, covering up the words that, marked where my white would go. Overall, I'm looking for a nice little texture here, and then I might add a little bit of color in it, so that it keeps it really pretty and light. You, of course, do what you want to do. It's your project. Again, take your time. Remember that this video is sped up. This took me probably 2.5 hours to do, just sitting there by myself. So, it's okay if it doesn't take that long for you, and it's also okay if it takes longer. This is your piece of artwork. You do it how you want it to look. Okay, now I'm mostly finished with my white. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start on my purple, which the shade of purple I'm looking for is gonna be a little bit more of, it's called lavender, which is like a very, very light purple for anyone who isn't familiar with it already. So, I'm mixing purple, blue, and white. Lots of purple, blue, and white. Um, as you can see, I've got my purple and my blue mixed really, really well to get that pretty purple color. Did I say purple and blue? I meant red and blue. My bad. But my red and my blue are mixed really, really well to get a nice purple color. And then I decided, I want it, a lot lighter. So I just started adding that purple color to my white. And I got the shade I was looking for. And then I just repeated my process. And there you have it. I've got all of my colors down on my paper. So I'm going to go ahead and lift my tape up so that I can take my paper off of my table and let it dry elsewhere. Another option for you, just, if you feel like doing it, you can always take your black paint and outline, your lines and your, shapes however you want it with that black paint or even white paint or whatever you want to do it with. There's a lot of creative freedom here, so just do whatever you think would look best. It's your piece of artwork, and I'm sure it'll turn out wonderful no matter what. Please let us know how this turned out. I'm particularly curious to see how it went. Remember, you can also do this if you don't have any paints available to you. You can do this with marker, you can do this with, pens, you can do this with crayons, colored pencils, whatever you want to do it with. It's a very easy project to replicate, and it's a lot of fun, especially, if you start drawing, I don't know, a cat or something crazy like that. So, again, let us know, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you had fun, and I will see you next week. Thank you.